it for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked the young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Wednesday, December 11th. Thank you for watching on YouTube Live and on Facebook Live. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, and they are a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different, a top fleet employer in the country as far as transport is concerned. Thank you very much. Also in part by Playground. Celebrate 14 incredible years of poker excellence at Playground with their anniversary poker series on now until December 16. The series boasts $850,000 in guaranteed prizes, including a $400,000 guaranteed main event. Don't miss your chance to be part of the action. Visit playground.ca for details. And also brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi that launched their new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for chilly winter days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light and ultra refreshing. The Montreal Canadiens had a day off yesterday. They practiced earlier today. It was a therapy day for Mike Matheson, and it was a therapy day for Patrik Laine. And after that, the Montreal Canadiens went over to the children's hospitals and spent some time with the kids. Let's get to that. Without further ado, let's bring in Craig Button. Craig, how are you?
I am great, Tony, and always special to hear the players going over to the children's hospital and during the holidays and trying to put a smile and a big smile on the kids' faces. It really is just a lovely, lovely exercise and gesture that the players make to, like I said, to bring happiness and joy to the young kids.
Yeah, it really is amazing. Really amazing. Speaking of amazing, I have to talk to you about Patrik Laine. He scored in 3 of the last 4 games, which were 3 wins for the Canadiens. The game in which he didn't score, they lost. But the way one player has just changed the entire dynamic of the hockey team, the city, the outlook, everything. It's been amazing so far.
Yeah, it has, and I don't think there's any other word you could use. And Patrick, I was watching an interview. I mean, obviously, when you're having the success that he's had in his return to the lineup, he's going to be interviewed lots, and he should be. But his joy, he's talking about the thrill of playing in Montreal and how exciting he is and special times. I mean, he's only had a handful of these in Montreal, but he's saying these are some of his best times and best memories, and you know how exciting it is to hear the cheers and everything. But Tony, you know this. I mean,
Yeah.
in Montreal, they celebrate stars. They celebrate the brilliance of stars, and they celebrate hardworking, dig in and play hard players. And Patrik Laine is a star, and he's got that star quality. And we talk about, playing in different franchises, original 6. All original 6 franchises are not created the same. Montreal's unique. No other franchise in sport has what the Montreal Canadiens have. And with respect to this, this glorious past, this celebration of artistry and hard work and grit and everything, so Patrick is celebrated for what he is. Yeah, I'm not trying to be critical of anybody, but you hear that, you know what? Like in Boston, you got to be a big bad Bruin. They've had great players in Boston, but it seems like doesn't matter. it's always going to lean towards that big bad Bruin stuff. Whereas Montreal, they like them all. They like the Russians, they like the Finns, they like the small player, they like the big player, they like the gifted player, they like the great goaltenders, they like the gritty guys. It just kind of we talk about Montreal being a melting pot.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the team and the spirit that the fans have always had for the Montreal Canadiens embodies that. And then Patrick's been a fantastic fit there.
He really has. But now it has everyone wondering, like, where would the Montreal Canadiens be if Patrik Laine would have started this season with the Canadiens? We all know that he went down with that really bad knee injury in preseason where Pare stuck out his knee in the Toronto Maple Leafs game. But, the Canadiens, it's funny because they're at the bottom of the East, but you can still see the wild card teams in the East in front of you, right? You can still see them. They're still within, catching distance. All you have to do is get on a little bit of a roll, and they've started that. They've won 3 of their last 4. Now, they got some big games. They'll host the Pittsburgh Penguins tomorrow. It's I guess anyone could say every game is winnable. It's a winnable game. It'll be more difficult for sure on Saturday night in Winnipeg. And then, they host Buffalo. They have a home and away with the Detroit Red Wings, and they visit the Columbus Blue Jackets before Christmas. I'm sure those teams are also saying that they're winnable for them. But so I ask you, where would the Montreal Canadiens be with a healthy Patrik Laine?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's speculative. I think that Patrick coming over to the Montreal Canadiens, there was this real belief that the pressures would be taken off of Nick Suzuki and Slafkovsky and Caulfield, who finished last season so strongly, and that a healthy Kirby Dach, would be able to really be able to bring out the best in Laine, and Montreal would bring out the best in Laine, and then it would all go there. Then Laine gets hurt, and Kirby Dach has had his struggles trying to find, back to form, shall we say. Alex Newhook's had his struggles trying to find a form there. So it's all, and who hasn't struggled is the captain in Caulfield. So where would the Montreal Canadiens be? So I don't think it's just about Patrik. I mean, Patrik has come in and scored and given them some life. But it's also some other players that could have given them that too. So you put it all together. I don't think there's any question, Tony, in my mind, that they'd be in a better place. That they would be a little bit higher up the standings. They might be closer rather than further away from a wild card spot. And trying to, instead of inching their way closer, they're trying to separate themselves. I do believe that. And all it takes is 2, 3, even 4 wins here, getting on the right side of those. All of a sudden, now you're in a different place. And I think Patrik Laine, but it's not just Patrik. I think there's some other players that, certainly are capable of more. They'll tell you that they're capable of more. And Montreal needs a little bit more from Kirby and from Alex. But Patrik coming back in the lineup has given them what I would call a real lift in their sales. And that's important.
And you know what? There's a couple of things besides his shot, which it was well documented, of course, but a lot of fans are starting to see it firsthand live when they go to the games. It's heavy, it's quick, it's precise. But besides the shot, I think he's impressed a lot of people with he's hard on himself. And he's honest about the team's performances as well. On himself, he says, he thought he played awful the first game. He's not where he wants to be. He said about the team that he didn't like the way they came out for a period. He said that, he wasn't happy with scoring a goal, knowing that the team wasn't playing well. Saying all the right things too. And, when Laine agreed to come to Montreal, the only concern that I had was a player who has had his mental struggles and will continue to do so, coming to a pressure-packed environment. But clearly, he had told us that we knew he'd played well in Winnipeg in a hockey market. He wanted to be in a hockey market. And so far, the hockey market has been great for him. It's been great.
And we talked about this last week, I believe, is that Patrick's also in a different place. He's in a different place mentally. He felt that he had to go when he left the Columbus last year. He needed he needed to address some of his mental health issues. And if you have a nagging knee injury or you have a nagging hand injury, you go and address them. We just saw Austin Matthews go over to Germany to try to address a nagging injury. Like when you're not in the right frame of mind and things are bothering you and you can't get out there and give all your focus to playing hockey, which is very demanding, it becomes harder. So all that, I shouldn't say all of it, but for Patrik to seek it out, to work at it, and then to come back not only different but better and understanding how to handle it, and he's mature. He's not 18-year-old Patrik Laine anymore. He's not 21-year-old Patrik Laine. And that's the thing about life. We continue to try to grow and develop and learn and take our past experiences to help us with our next endeavors. And I've never seen Patrik, in all the years I've watched him play, ever shy away from the pressure moments. I've never seen it. And so I never expected it to be a problem for him in Montreal. I expected that if Patrik wasn't in this real comfortable place with himself and with his mental health, that I don't care where he was, it was going to be a struggle for him. He was in Columbus. He was struggling. And it wasn't because he was in Columbus. It was because of what he was dealing with himself. So when you get yourself into a good space and you have a good history of performing and using your talents really well and understanding that, okay, this is what I need, and then at the same time you're maturing, I think what you're getting right now is Patrik Laine that is an older, more mature, and excited player to be able to play. And I've said this before, is there any more exciting place to play than Montreal? No. The answer is no. Yeah. Nobody can tell you there's a more exciting place to play than Montreal.
So Patrik Laine said that he doesn't have any idea what Lane Hutson is about to do on the ice. And Hutson responded to that by saying, when asked about it, I'm trying to create a little confusion and put our guys in spots where they could score. For Patrik Laine, he can score from anywhere, so he doesn't have to get too much space. I tried to throw in some fakes and give them some time and space. And Lane Hutson is doing that. I broke a Montreal Canadiens record the other night, Craig, for 7 consecutive games with at least a point for a Montreal Canadiens rookie defenseman.
Listen, I chuckle. I'm laughing here, Tony, because Lane says I try to create a little confusion. No. Lane creates lots of confusion for an opponent. Because here's the challenge, and I love the way that Patrik said, I don't know what he's going to do. Here's what makes Lane so brilliant, okay, is that Lane's going to size up the whole scenario. He's going to look at the situation, and he's going to say, he's like a quarterback sitting back in the pocket. So he knows what the play call is, and he's looking, he goes, okay, well, that play's not open. What's my next best play? Okay, that play's not open. I got to go to my third best play. Oh, okay, what's my check down? I'm using quarterback lingo, right? Now think about this. This is all going on rapid speed. Everything's going on around you, and I call it 360-degree awareness. And so what Lane is doing is sizing everything up, and then brilliant players find a way to make, if not the best available play, they find the next best available play. So Patrik trying to get used to his rhythms, trying to understand what he's going to do. But how can an opponent know what Lane Hutson's going to do when Lane Hutson hasn't made up his mind what he's going to do? He's going to take the puck. He's going to play, and he's going to say, "Okay, this is what I'm going to try to do here." So to me, it's imperative that other players, you get smart players to play with them, and then you just kind of slide. You just kind of slide to an opening, because then you go, he'll get me the puck. And what's going to happen for Patrik, and he'll learn this because he's so smart, he's going to slide into that little opening, and you're right, he doesn't need a lot, and that puck's going to come. And now Patrick's going to become that much more prolific. I mean, Lane is brilliant. Lane's a brilliant player. He's a brilliant thinker. And I think what makes him, and what's going to continue to make him a top-notch player in this league, is his ability to size up the entire situation in real time with the speed all going around him and make these plays. And he breaks ankles. He opens up ice. He's unbelievable. And again, the things that Laine is able to do makes everybody around him better.
Starting to be fun watching games in Montreal with Lane Hutson and Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki and Patrik Laine in the power play. It's a lot of fun. The other night, you should have seen it, Craig, with the game versus Anaheim. You go to a shootout, right? And Marty St. Louis now has the luxury where he can go with Laine, Caulfield, and Suzuki. It didn't even get to Suzuki because it was over after Laine scored and Caulfield scored. But it just the fan base is reinvigorated. Look, I don't know if it's going to be enough to make up and to go on a run and end up making. There's still plenty of hockey to be played in the National Hockey League. A lot, but it's
everybody needs
it's fun.
to stop talking about the playoffs. Okay, everybody needs to stop talking about it. Okay, when you get your team into a functioning area, and Marty talks about process, and he starts talking about the things you have to do on a consistent basis to be a good team, then you're going to start moving in the right direction. This idea about the playoffs, I said at the beginning of the year, they need to move into the next 8. They've been in the bottom 8. They need to move into the next 8. And then they can start to look at how they get into that playoff area. They're not there. And I don't think they're going to be there. I don't think they're good enough yet. They're still young in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
But what you're seeing now is a team that is really starting to function. They're starting to, the players are settling in. The defense was kind of like a little bit like, okay, who's in, who's out? Now you're seeing players gain a little bit more confidence in their play. And you're seeing where Marty has emphasized process. Laine returns to lineup. Hopefully Newhook and Kirby Dach can get their games. And by the way, Demidov is on the way.
Yeah.
And this guy is lights out brilliant. So you talking about Suzuki and Caulfield and Laine and Hutson. Just to name it, like this guy's lights out brilliant. Lights out brilliant.
And picking up on the whole playoffs that you talked about, I mean, look, unless there's some kind of major miracle, they definitely have no chance of making the playoffs if Kirby Dach, Juraj Slafkovsky, and Alex Newhook don't produce with regularity and bring it with regularity. Now, everyone's hoping that because Kirby Dach got a lucky break last game, Dostal fumbles the puck, Slafkovsky picks it up, he gives it to Dach, who basically puts it into an empty cage in front of him. A lot of people are hoping that can jumpstart Kirby Dach. You and I have talked about this, an injury, an ACL, MCL injury. It takes a while for a lot of athletes to get comfortable and to get over the fear and all that stuff and to get back into the rhythm. It's been hard for Kirby Dach. It's been really hard.
It is. I'm going to use an example and somebody that I've watched for a long time, and he went through it last year. Connor Brown with the Edmonton Oilers. He blew out his ACL the year before with the Washington Capitals, had it reconstructed and repaired, and he came back. And he really couldn't find his legs. It wasn't until like somewhere in the near February, end of February, beginning of March, that Connor started to find those legs again. That's how long it took him. Chris Knobloch had Connor Brown in Erie in junior hockey. So he really knew what Connor was capable of. They were making sure that he was health and physically there was nothing there that was holding him back. And it was just a matter of you rehab, then you got to build up your strength again. Then you got to build up. Well, so you and me, we go and we blow out our knee. So the first thing we do is okay, we get it repaired. So then we let it heal. And then we rehab it. And then we try to get back to a point where we can do things on an everyday basis. What Kirby Dach and Connor Brown and players that have these injuries have to do, then they have to go and get their bodies back to a level of competing at the highest level.
Yeah.
It's not just about going and living and normally now and being able to walk around or play a little tennis or, do a little skiing. It's now about playing at the highest level. So I watched Connor Brown take that long. And by the time March rolled along, and then Connor Brown was like, there it is, he's back, right? So what I would say with Kirby is be patient with him. And I think everybody's hoping that Kirby, like that goal, can turn into something a little bit more, and that he can get that. But considering where it was at, there was a lot of angst in Edmonton last year about Connor Brown. I can't believe they signed this guy. This guy doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. And I understand the frustrations of a fan base, and you want to see these players always do well. So all I would say is just be patient with Kirby, because not sometimes, everybody's on different timelines. But I saw it, and when it popped for Connor Brown last year, it didn't just pop; it popped big time.
Wow. Speaking of injuries, it looked like Jake Evans was seriously hurt last game, because he left the game in a lot of pain. Seemed to have hurt his shoulder. The really good news, this was a big sigh of relief, is that Jake Evans was back at practice today. All right. Here's a player who was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens in 2014 in the 7th round, 207 overall. And he has played with the Montreal Canadiens for this is season number 6 now. So he's probably had a good 5.5 seasons with the Canadiens. His contract is up at the end of the year, and he's going to be a UFA. The good news for Evans is that he's played really good hockey this year for the Montreal Canadiens. The bad news is he has a ceiling. He's probably hit it, and he might price himself out. Now, it all depends on how much he wants to stay here. My question to you is, how much interest do you think there would be for a Jake Evans if he's made available prior to trade deadline?
Yeah, well, I think there'd be lots of interest in Jake Evans. Number one, expiring contract. Number two, right shot centerman. Number three, somebody that can kill penalties. Somebody that can play, some of those harder minutes against some good players. He's shown all those capabilities. When you get to the trade deadline, sometimes you're just trying to strengthen different areas of your team. You're just trying to say, okay, we need a little bit more flexibility on faceoffs. Okay, we want to have somebody else that can kill penalties. So do I think that Jake Evans would be very desirable by other NHL teams? And others understand this. It's not just other NHL teams. It's Stanley Cup contending teams that want to strengthen and bolster their lineup. I have no question that Jake Evans would be a very, very desired player.
Should the Montreal Canadiens hold on to him, considering, because I can understand Stanley Cup teams wanting to have Jake Evans. The Canadiens, obviously, like you said, they're not there, and they're probably not even close. I would imagine your answer is going to be it all depends on what the dollar amount is. Let's not forget that Owen Beck is waiting in the wings. Let's not forget that Oliver Kapanen, and Beck's having a great season, by the way, with the Laval Rocket in the American Hockey League. Oliver Kapanen started the season here before going back to Sweden. Michael Hage is in Michigan. I don't know how long it's going to take for him to join the Montreal Canadiens, but knowing the depth the Canadiens have at center and how far away they are or aren't from being able to contribute every day and every night, what do you think?
I think there's a couple of things that have to go into the calculation of Jake. And I don't think it's just about dollars. It's term, and then understanding. I think that the players you just mentioned, you mentioned Owen Beck and you mentioned Oliver Kapanen. So how are they progressing? What is their opportunity? How close are they able to? It's not just playing. How close are they able to come in and help us contribute and to help us move forward? Like the Montreal Canadiens are going to find themselves in a place here in the coming months, over the course of the next year or so, where it's not about just integrating young players. It's about integrating players that can help you and be contributors. So that's going to change for the management. So now you're watching, okay, where's Owen? Where's Oliver and their ability? And I think a big part of this, too, is going to come back to Kirby Dach. Like, can Kirby Dach, can they see real signs of Kirby Dach, getting his game back to the level that he's shown capability of playing at, and then Montreal can be satisfied and he's healthy and ready to go. I think because what you don't want to do either, and that's why I say about term with Jake. So if you're thinking, okay, well, geez, Owen and Oliver might need another year before they're real contributors, even if they're on the team in Montreal. But, if we sign Jake to a 3-year deal, are we blocking them for 2 more years? You got to be careful about blocking your young players. You got and not giving them a path. So I think that it goes into those different areas, Tony, of evaluation. And so the trade deadline is on March 7th. There's lots of time now. So Owen keeps playing. Oliver keeps playing. You continue to watch Kirby. You understand where you're at. You're listening to other teams phone you potentially on Jake Evans. And I'm not a big believer, and I'll share this story real quick. I'm not a big believer in just, you got to get something for them. I don't believe in that, because when I was in Calgary in my first year here, we had Tommy Abilene. Tommy Abilene had won a Stanley Cup with the New Jersey Devils, and he was fantastic with us. I mean, a fantastic person, continues to, in that regard. Really good, steady, stabilizing player on our team. We had 4 young defensemen on our team at that time. We had Denny Gauthier, Robin Regier, Derek Morris, and Tony Ludman. And so Lou Lamoriello had called me. Other teams had called me, and Lou had said, geez, I'd be really interested in Tommy Abilene, and he had won a cup with New Jersey. And Lou said, what do you think? And I said, well, I'm not trading him. I said I would trade him if you'd give me a 2nd-round draft pick at the very least. And Lou goes, oh, Craig, I can't give you a 2nd-round draft pick for Tommy Abilene. Tommy Abilene, I'd be out of a job. I said, don't worry, Lou, I'll hire you. And he laughed. But Lou asked me, he said to me, he goes, tell me what your rationale is for asking for that price for Tommy Abilene. I said, we have those 4 young defensemen. I think we had 17 games left in the season. And I said, we had 17 games left, Lou. That's 68 games total, 17 games. I don't feel like throwing my young defenseman to the Wolves. I feel that Tommy Abilene is a real key player for as we try to continue to grow with these young guys. And by moving him out, Lou said to me, he goes, I respect that. He goes, I respect that, trying to help your players through. And I said, I'm going to go talk to Tommy, because if Tommy tells me that, listen, this would be something that would be good for me, I'm going to accommodate Tommy. But it wasn't to get something for Tommy. Tommy came and he goes, no, I like it here. I'm good. And he stayed. I wasn't just, so it's the same calculation. Like, you don't have to just go trade. Like, let's say you come to that Jake won't be part of it. Then you don't have to trade him for a 4th-round draft pick at the deadline. You don't have to do that. His value is still really good with your team. Don't ever buy into this, you got to get something for them. What you might get from him is what he gives to the rest of your young group for the remainder of the season.
You know who else has been really good in terms of defensemen? As of late, it's been Arber Xhekaj. Wow. Xhekaj, it's been a little bit, I wouldn't say, it's been a particular relationship with Marty St. Louis over the last couple of years. From the outside, we kind of got the feeling that Arber wasn't Marty's kind of player, but maybe he wasn't Marty's kind of player when he was picking up the penalties, or he wasn't making smart decisions with the puck. Whatever was the turning point, I don't know. But now Arber Xhekaj has gone from a defenseman who used to play 15 or 16 minutes down to a defenseman who used to play 10, 11, 12 minutes, 13 minutes. Now back to that defenseman who's not only playing a lot, but playing about 19, 20. And he's playing just solid. He's limiting the mistakes. Your thoughts on Arber Xhekaj? And, I would imagine you talked about Jake Evans and you said there would be a lot of teams lining up for a guy like Jake Evans. I would imagine there would be some teams going into the playoffs that if they ever wanted some depth on defense, a guy who could block shots, a guy who can give checks, a guy who can kill penalties, a guy who could defend his teammates. Arber Xhekaj is a pretty unique player in that sense.
I was in Winnipeg on Tuesday night, and for the Boston Bruins, there was a player there by the name of Nikita Zoroff, who I've known for a long time, watched him play. And he just signed a $30 million 6-year contract with the Boston Bruins. Trust me, you don't have to imagine nothing, okay? Arber Xhekaj is a player that teams around the NHL would love to have on their blue line, Now, the other thing about Marty, I don't want to hear about anything about not Marty's kind of player. Ask Marty about Jason Cullimore. Ask him about Jason Cullimore, who was a key player on his blue line when they won the Stanley Cup in 04. Okay? Players have to learn. No coach likes players that takes his unnecessary penalties, that makes mistakes, that you're trying to work with. I don't care who you are. Coaches don't want that. Arber Xhekaj is like any other young defenseman. They're learning and they're growing. I'm going to quote the great Jacques Laperriere again. He says, when you're a defenseman in the NHL, you might be playing when you're 21 and 22 and 23. He goes, all you're doing is apprenticing. That's what you're doing. You're apprenticing. You're learning your trade. You're applying it and trying to get so that when you turn 24, 25, you're ready to be that player that can impact. How old's Arber Xhekaj? Yeah, he's not there yet. He's in an apprenticeship role. What you have to be encouraged with Arber is how much he's learning, how much he's grasping. He did the same thing last year after he got sent down to Laval. And now he's had to go through it in a different way this year. It's as long as a player is showing growth, that's positive. And as long as you have what the qualities that Arber Xhekaj has that not a lot of players have, you better be patient.
Yeah. All right. So Canadiens host the Pittsburgh Penguins tomorrow night. Sid the Kid, who signed a 2-year contract extension. So this obviously will not be his last game or should not be his last game in Montreal. What a career he's had. Some are looking at that and saying, all right, 3 Stanley Cups for Sid the Kid. He set out what he wanted to do with Pittsburgh. And you know what? They accomplished their goal of winning Stanley Cups with Sidney Crosby. A lot of people like one player starting and ending his career with one team, with one jersey, with one organization. It doesn't happen very much nowadays in professional sport anymore, though. And others look at it and say, you know what? That guy has been so great for that team, that city. He's been so great for the game that it's tough to see him go out losing more often than not because he's the ultimate winner. What would Craig Button like to see? Would he like to see Sidney Crosby finish his career as a Pittsburgh Penguin? It's probably a tough question putting you on the spot. Or would he like to see Sidney Crosby join his buddy Nathan McKinnon or whatever in Colorado and try and go for a Stanley Cup for the next couple of years?
Yeah, but I would say to you, it's not a tough question for me. You know, Mark Messier didn't participate in the playoffs his last 6 years in the National Hockey League?
Wow.
Last 6 years. So, I mean, Mark made that decision. Mark was trying to go, he was in different spots and he ended up and, you know, that's what he did. I will say this about Sidney Crosby. You can have two things be true at the same time. That you're a great competitor, which Sidney is all of that and more, and he's got a great desire to win a Stanley Cup, and that he's incredibly loyal and he wants to finish his career in Pittsburgh regardless of what's happening there. Those two things can be true at the very same time. So for Sidney Crosby now, whatever path he takes, whatever path he says that he would go on, like I think it's up to him. If he's got this insatiable desire to go and compete for more Stanley Cups, he's going to have to look outside of Pittsburgh. I'm not going to ever suggest that he doesn't have this insatiable desire, but he might balance it out by going, you know what, Pittsburgh's been really good for me, and I do want to finish here. And we find that players, you know, make those decisions in light of those types of considerations. There's no question that Sidney Crosby, with his contract extension, 2 years next year and the year after at $8.7 million, that is what I call a Sidney Crosby friendly deal. Because if he ever made the decision that maybe I would like to leave, he can be moved very easily on term and dollars. And if he wants to stay in Pittsburgh and he wants to carry on, the other thing you have to keep in mind with Sidney's going to play for the in the Four Nations face-off. He's going to play in the Olympics in 2026. He's going to have a chance to compete at the highest level in other areas over the next couple of years. The one thing, and Mark Messier expressed this, and he won 6 cups. You get to a point where you go, it's really hard to win. We know it's hard to win. You know who knows it the best? The players that have won. And you know who knows it better? The players that have won more than once. And so they have to ask themselves, can I muster up the same level of determination and knowing what's going to take to get to that cup and then balance it out? And Mark Messier, Sidney Crosby, they don't become any less competitor. What they do is they consider a lot of different things. We talk about where you're at a particular point in your life. Well, Sidney's at a very different point now at this stage of his life, just like Mark was. And that to me is, it's not up to me to say, oh, it'd be great to see him finish in Pittsburgh, or it'd be great to see him win a Stanley Cup again or two, or to play with his buddy Nathan McKinnon. To me, all those things would be great. They all can happen.
Yeah, I hear you. For me, it doesn't matter at which point I am in my life, whether it was back in 1995, 2005, 2015, or 2025, which is around the corner. Fruiterie Dillard has been a mainstay in the LaSalle community since 1995. They're a family-run business, and they're proud to continue offering the same fresh foods and flavors that they have been for the past 30 years. From fresh fruits and produce delivered daily to an ever-expanding assortment of deli meats, cheeses, and sandwiches, you'll find personalized service and friendly faces that make you feel like family. Every time I show up every Saturday, I have a smile on their face. Tasso, his son, his staff, and it's always the same order. Half a pound of mortadella San Daniele, half a pound of prosciutto San Daniele, a big box of bocconcini, a small box of olives with pitted almonds, and half a pound of the Capicol Fontina Mild as well. Okay, so for Montreal Canadiens fans who have had this dream,
give me 1 second. I got to give you a quote.
Oh, okay? I thought you were going to give me an order for Fruiterie Dillard. I was going to say,
no. No, you said about being so happy.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a quote from John Lennon.
All right.
When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment. I told them they didn't understand life.
Oh, that's a good one.
Be happy. Isn't that good?
That's a real good one. So
if you're going to Fruiterie Dillard and you're happy, continue to be happy, Tony.
For Montreal Canadiens fans who are happy every time they see Sidney Crosby, but disappointed that he's not wearing a Montreal Canadiens jersey, right? They still have this hope that Sidney's going to retire a Hab. If you were a betting man and you had to put $1 here on Betway, would you put your $1 on Sidney Crosby finishing his career with the Pittsburgh Penguins? I know you said that there's so many options and anything is possible. But you think he'll finish his career with the Penguins?
If I had $1 to put on it, and I would say yes. And I think too, you also move into a different area of your life where you start to realize, well, how can I be an influence on the next group of younger players to help them have some of the same, to help them realize that the goals you're pursuing are worthwhile and try to guide them there.
Yeah.
And so he may be in that. And isn't that ultimate winning in life?
Well, and look,
as they say, pay it forward. So I put my $1 on him staying in Pittsburgh.
And I love that players who start and finish their careers with the same organization. And by all means, there are exceptions. So, for example, Raymond Bourque with the Boston Bruins, like, he didn't feel that he was going to win his Stanley Cup there. He did his time. He did everything in his power. There's nothing he couldn't do more. He wanted an opportunity elsewhere. They gave it to him, and all's well that ends well. He ends up winning the Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche. I understand that. Sid has won 3 cups. For me, it would be pretty cool for him to retire a Pittsburgh Penguin. I think that's cool because, once again, what an example you set for others after you, that you start and finish your career with the same club. You get the job done. I think it's pretty cool.
I don't think there's any questions. I mean, to me, one of the best 5 players that's ever played in the National Hockey League.
Hey, yeah, you know what? I totally agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I have in my lifetime. So once again, I go back 40 years, give or take. I'll say 99, 66, and Sid the Kid. That's my top 3. But Connor, I think Connor McDavid and Jaromir Jagr are probably there 4 and 5.
Yeah, well, you got Connor McDavid, who's been great and everything, and then going back in time, it's Orr and Howe, and the luxury that I've had over time is having watched Orr play, and not really Gordie, but to have listened to Scotty Bowman tell me that Gordie Howe and was was as great as anybody, that's enough for me to say, okay, like that's where it is. But if we break it down into eras, there's no question Connor McDavid moves into that conversation.
Yeah, go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. You scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years old and over. Please play responsibly. Last question. Has Samuel, if Montembeault keeps, he's been unbelievable in the last week. Obviously, he has a lot to prove, and he wants to really make the decision difficult for the powers that be come February and come the Four Nations tourney. But what can you tell me your thoughts on Montembeault's performances as of late?
He's been great. And what I would say to him, to Aiden Hill and Jordan Binnington, make the decision hard for them. Just keep playing good. Keep doing the things that you can do. There's no, like we've said, there's no Carey Price, there's no Brodeur, there's no Luongo, there's no Eddie Belfour, Patrick Roy. They go, okay, you're the guy. Like there's just, those guys aren't there yet. So show them and show yourself that through your play that you're deserving of the call. And for all of them. And last week, somebody asked me, I think it was Aiden Hill shut out Edmonton on a Tuesday night. And I said, who would be your starting goalie?
Yeah.
This was on Wednesday. And I said, well, it'll be Aiden Hill. He got a shutout last night. Well, if you watch Montembeault, and then you go, now Montembeault is my. That's what you want. Hockey Canada will be thrilled if all three of those guys are playing right near the tops of their games when the Four Nations face-off begins.
Yeah, I know I said I would let you go, and I will. 5 more seconds. Do you have an opinion on the whole thing with the Rangers and the Ottawa Senators, that Ottawa are saying that the Rangers are guilty of some soft tampering here? Word has it, Larry Brooks has said that 4 different sources have told him that the Rangers are actively pursuing Brady Tkachuk, and Ottawa says, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I know this. When a player's name ends up in trade rumors, especially good players, like every manager in the league should be calling. Like, so if you start to hear about like wherever you are in the league, Brady Tkachuk, well, you phone Steve Staios and you ask, right? So yeah. Larry Brooks says, Larry Brooks is a journalist. He doesn't work for the Rangers, so it's not tampering. And bottom line is, there's always going to be rumors out there. There's always going to be different thoughts out there, and other managers in the league, once these rumors, they want to be in on something that might be potentially true, and they're going to do their due diligence, and that's just part and parcel.
Thank you, Craig. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you, my man. There you have it. Craig Button, TSN Director of Scouting and their hockey analyst, Marinaro. Shout out to Paul Montreal, PEAU Montreal.com is their website. They have 2 locations. One is in downtown Montreal, and the other one is on the West Island. Dr. Manish Khan has a game changer for hair loss. It's called TED. It's an ultrasound technology to boost blood flow to your scalp, getting the hair follicles back in action, all natural, no needles, no pain, 98% success rate for ideal candidates, that is. You can call them at 514-989-7328. We mentioned to you that the Montreal Canadiens practiced earlier today. And once again, Mike Matheson and Patrik Laine had a therapy day, and Jake Evans was back on the ice. And then after practice, the Canadiens went out to the children's hospitals where they do their annual visits and put a smile on so many kids' faces. And here's a couple of pictures for you. Here's Laine with Heineman and Alex Newhook. And what a beautiful picture that is. Nick Suzuki with Caden Primo on his right and Mike Pizzetta on his left. Kirby Dach with another child at the hospital. Brendan Gallagher with another child at the hospital as well. And here you have it. There's David Reinbacher. And I can't quite see that 5. Who's that? That number 5? I can't quite. I guess there's what is it? Is it Barron? I guess. Hold on. I don't know. But anyway, those are the images. I also saw one earlier today on social media where Samuel Montembeault was with a child whose face just lit up. It's beautiful. And you know what? It's true. They're athletes, and it's true. They make a lot of money. But it's also true that they're very giving with their time, and they have a gift of being able to put smiles on people's faces, not only when people watch them play hockey, but also when they meet them and they take a picture and they get an autograph. And that's an awesome thing that the Montreal Canadiens and their Montreal Canadiens Foundation do every year by raising money And it's an amazing thing that they do by going to visit the hospitals. Fantastic stuff. We'll be back tomorrow night after the Canadiens and the Penguins. And once again, the Maguire Report right after the game on the Habs post-game edition of the Sick Podcast. Talk to you again tomorrow night. The Canadiens versus the Penguins. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.